I lose my voice every single time I film one of these videos, so let's go ahead and hydrate ourselves really quick. That's better. Hi everyone, my name is Holly, and if you like a good fantasy book or 2 or 20, then this is definitely the video for you. Today I'll be talking about 26 book releases that are coming out in May that maybe you didn't know about, so go ahead, I'll wait, bring up your Goodreads page, because I'll be adding a bunch of books to your TBR. Hahaha, I'm not even sorry about it. So starting on May 5th, we have 11 books releasing. Oh my goodness, bear with me. We have Age of Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. I absolutely love that title. It gives me all the video game nostalgia. I almost wonder if he had to change the I to a Y in Empire because of the PC game Age of Empire for like copyright reasons. I'm very curious. This is the concluding 6th novel within the Legends of the First Empire series. It is a fantasy saga that takes place thousands of years within the same universe as the Theft of Swords series. So if you have been sitting on the series for a while and you haven't read it yet, now is the perfect time to do that, which is including myself. Network Effect by Martha Wells releases on that day as well. The Murderbot series exploded on the scene in 2017 and the world has not been the same. Murderbot is back in this very highly anticipated full-length standalone. That's right. All the past books were novellas, and I'm sure fans are hyperventilating to get their hands on this book so that they can sink their teeth into it. Hope Island by Tim Major, and the cover itself is so captivating. This is a new science fiction mystery following a mother whose partner walks out on her and her daughter, and when she goes to visit her parents on this remote island, all of the islanders are acting very, very strange, and it becomes even weirder when she stumbles upon the bodies. This definitely has some type of horror element to it, and I like it. The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea by Maggie Tokuda Hall. Every single time I say that title, I want to say The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Every single time. This is a new YA fantasy about a desperate orphan turned pirate and a rebellious imperial daughter who find connections on the high seas, and it's set in a rich world threaded with magic. This is also a debut novel, and the author is very lucky to have a beautiful cover. Next, I'll be talking about Driving the Deep by Suzanne Palmer. This is the second book in the Finder Chronicles. It is a action-packed adult sci-fi following a swashbuckling character named Fergus who is from Scotland, and he is tasked to steal back a spaceship. If you are looking for a character who is put into one dire situation after another, then this book is definitely for you. Still on May 5th, by the way, we have Dark Skies by Danielle L. Jensen. It's a YA fantasy smothered in piracy and politics. It's a YA fantasy that I was not able to get to last year, but I have yet to read a book by this author. She somehow eludes me, and I just would like to read something by her, so hey, maybe this one's for me. And then The Kingdom of Liars by Nick Martell releases. This is a debut fantasy all about a place called the Hollows. It's an action-packed fantasy thriller with very intriguing magic elements, and I am a big fan of this cover. Coming from Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, we have Aurora Burning. This is the sequel to Aurora Rising, which came out last year. It's a YA futuristic sci-fi following a big cast of characters. I'm sure fans of this one are very excited to get their hands on it, and the cover is gorgeous. I'm really happy that they stuck with a theme with the face, and I really like that this one is orange. Also on the 5th, we have Fractured Ties by Leslie Lutz. This is supposedly Lost meets Stranger Things. It's a YA thriller mystery all about a girl named Sia who helps her mother take tourists out for scuba diving tours to help ends meet. But after a disastrous scuba diving tour, Sia finds herself on a deserted island with a few survivors, and things begin to get real creepy. I'm actually excited for this one. It sounds very claustrophobic, and I'm kind of in the mood for it. Okay, so 2 more books on the 5th. We have Forged in Fire and Stars by Andrea Robertson. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of this title, but it is YA, so you gotta get used to it at this point. It actually sounds right up my alley. You're following a blacksmith who has worked alongside the king and queen to forge these legendary weapons for the army. And she's always been told that she will be the next loresmith. Well, things change when the prince and princess steal her away to reclaim the throne. It does fall under the chosen one trope, but that does not mean that that's a bad thing. And then finally on the 5th, we have The Betrothed by Kiera Cass. Yes, I am going to mention this one, even though this book is definitely not for me, but one of you could enjoy it, and that's all that matters. This is a glittering royal romance where love is not always what it seems. That's really all I know about it, and I think that's where I'm going to end it. Okay, so finally moving on to May 12th, we have 8 books coming out. The first one is Firewalkers by Adrian Dukowski, and man, this man is the literal sci-fi version of Stephen King because he pumps out books like it's nothing. Readers are thrown into a post-apocalyptic world where the rich live in space and they basically have whatever they want, and the poor live back on Earth, which is basically a dried up wasteland. I'm super excited for this one. I always think books by this author always sound so amazing, but I have yet to pick one up. Hopefully we can fix that soon. Empress of Flames by Mimi Yu. This is the sequel to The Girl King, which is a YA Asian inspired retelling all about these 2 sisters who become unwitting rivals in a war to claim the title of emperor. I actually never read the first book, but I still really wanted to mention the sequel because I know some of you who are very highly anticipating it. It's for fans of Renee Ahdieh and Sabaa Tahir, which sounds about right. It's supposed to be very rich and very cultural. Also on the 12th, we have Stealing Thunder. This one sounds really unique. It's supposed to be a very charming dragon fantasy following a trans girl who runs away from home, finds a community of trans women, falls in love, and at the bottom here it says in order to survive she will need the skills of a courtesan, a thief, and a warrior princess. It sounds really cool. And then next we have Girl Serpent Thorn. This is yet another YA fantasy. There's a lot of those coming out in May. It's an original fairy tale about a girl cursed to be poisonous to the touch, and she somehow finds the power that might lie within that curse. This one sounds very luscious and captivating, and just the cover alone just gives me like, I don't know, like velvety vibes, like luscious velvety vibes, I don't know, but it sounds really cool. And then we have Bone Harvest by James Brogden. From the critically acclaimed author of Helga's Children, I've never heard of that book before, comes a dark and haunting tale all about this ancient cult who wreaks havoc among the modern world. Oh yes, we have a horror on this list, about time, right? This is following a woman who has early onset Alzheimer's and her husband is dead, her children are grown, but when 3 strangers take up residence next door, some very strange things start going bump in the night and during the day. This one sounds super creepy and definitely a horror I could get behind. Next we have the sequel to We Hunt the Flame with We Free the Stars. I love this cover yet again with another orange theme. We love to see it. Please keep giving me more orange books. This is a series that takes place in a very rich, detailed world that is inspired by ancient Arabia, following a girl who has to disguise herself as a man and she's a huntress. I think the first book sounded really cool. I own it, but I haven't read it yet. But with this orange cover, it is definitely even more on my radar than before. Another YA fantasy that comes out on the 12th is House of Dragons by Jessica Cluess, and man, this cover gives me major Game of Thrones vibes. Probably because the swords kind of resemble the Iron Throne. This is a fantasy all about dragons and these 5 houses who have to compete in these trials to determine who will take over the Dragon Throne. Very Game of Thrones-like. Will it live up to the comparison? We'll see. And the final book coming out on May 12th is Queen of the Unwanted, which is the sequel to The Women's War. This is a feminist epic fantasy set in a world where a revolutionary spell has given women the ability to control their fertility, which definitely has its consequences within this society. I know I keep talking about the cover of these books, but I can't help it, but I actually really like the cover of the first one. It's of like a hand. It's very simple, but I really liked it. I'm a little sad that they kind of did a cover change with the sequel, but if you love the first one, then definitely check this one out. Finally, moving on to a different day, on May 19th, we have 4 books releasing. We have Debt of Honor by Christopher Nuttall. This is the first book to a new sci-fi series that I believe is following a character from this author's previous series, but I really wanted to mention it because I adore this cover. It is so eye-catching. This is a very space fleet, galactic empire kind of sci-fi, so if you're looking for that, here you go. And then we have Rule by Rowena Miller. This is the conclusion to a historical fantasy all about sewing magical charms into clothing. It's a series that I have been meaning to start for a while. I actually own the first 2 books. Now we just need to get on it. But it'll be a great series to binge, that's for sure. And then the next Hunger Games book comes out on the 19th, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The most basic YA title ever created. This is going to be about President Snow's early life, which a lot of people are a fan of, but it actually made me even more excited, even with its annoying title. And then finally on the 19th, we have The Coven Won't Break You by Isabel Sterling. This is the sequel to These Witches Don't Burn, which is a YA paranormal fantasy about witches, I believe. I really like the cover to this series. I'm really glad that they stuck with the card theme. The first one is following a girl named Hannah who is an elemental witch, and she comes from a long line of elemental witches within her family, when suddenly some dark magic begins to happen and she gets caught in the middle of it. Jumping to May 26th, we have 2 books coming out. The first one is Sunshield by Emily B. Martin. This is a new science fiction fantasy that is supposed to be very lush and detailed and full of political intrigue. It's all about this lawless wilderness following a character named Lark who has built a name for herself. She's kind of like a bandit. If I were to say like my top 5 books from this list to be excited about, this book would be one of them. There's something about it that is so intriguing to me, and I'm really excited to read it. Lawless, bandit, outlaw, like those are like my buzzwords. Also on the 26th, we have The Gilded Ones by Normina Forna, which is another YA fantasy that is blessed with a beautiful cover. I really don't know much about this one, which is really unfortunate. The only thing I know is that it's set in a world that kills women who are seen as demons, which sounds very brutal, and let's hope that it's pretty good. And then finally, on the 28th, we have From Cold Ashes Risen by Rob J. Hayes. This is the final 3rd book within the War Eternal series. I'm sorry I'm talking so slow. The title of this book really throws me off for some reason, so I'm trying to like make sure I get it right. I absolutely love the first book to this. I'll actually be reviewing it in my next wrap-up video, which should be my next video. The series has been coming out every month. The first one came out in March, second one came out in April, and now the 3rd and final one is coming out in May. So that is it for this video. Those are 26 book releases that are coming out in May. I hope you discovered at least something new in this video. Tell me down below if I missed a book. I know I did, because man, probably 100 releases in May, but I can't do them all. Go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed, because it helps me out so much. Go ahead and subscribe. I upload videos every single week. Follow me on Instagram at Holly Hearts Books and on Twitter at Holly Niece. And until we meet again, happy reading.